Hello friends, I'm Sunita Fadkule, professor in mechanical engineering, working at JSPM's Jaywantrao Sawant College of Engineering, Hadapsar, Pune. This is our video lecture number 27, which is on 2D wave system, undamped vibrations, in which we are going to learn torsional vibrations theory. The learning outcome is you will be able to analyze natural frequencies and principal mode shapes of 2D wave torsional vibratory systems. Let us have the look for the syllabus content of unit number 3. So here is the syllabus torsional equivalent shafts that we are going to learn today, and how to find out natural frequency and mode shapes for torsional system. Now let us look at the recap what we have learned in earlier lectures. There are two parts. In part A, that is in single D-wave torsional vibratory system, in unit number 1, we have learned that natural frequency for any single rotor system can be given by the formula square root of kT upon I, which can be written as square root of Gj upon IL, where G is the modulus of rigidity of shaft material in Newton per meter square. J is polar moment of inertia of the shaft, that is equal to pi by 32 d4 for circular cross section. It is in meter fourth. Then I is equal to mass moment of inertia of the disc, which is vibrating, in kg meter square, and L is the length of the shaft in meter. Okay. Then we also learn in part B, that is in unit number 3 only, what is the typical procedure to solve any problem on 2D wave system, and the same procedure with some modification is going to we are going to apply for torsional systems also. Okay, so let us have quickly the look on this procedure. First we have to draw the 3 diagrams, one below other. Okay, one diagram is of configuration, second diagram is of equivalent shaft length, and third diagram is of amplitude and node point, that is also known as a principal mode shapes. Of course, when we will solve the problem, that you will come to know that how to draw the diagram number 2 and diagram number 3. Then second step is assume either theta 1 is greater than theta 2 or theta 2 is greater than theta 1, and accordingly show the direction of restoring couple, okay, which is provided by the shaft stiffness. Then write down 2 equations of motion by applying D'Alembert principle or Newton's second law of motion. Fourth step is simplify equations by collecting similar coefficient terms together. That is, coefficient of theta 1 you collect and coefficient of theta 2 you collect together. Okay. Then assume solution as follows. Theta 1 is equal to phi 1 sin omega t and theta 2 is equal to phi 2 sin omega t, where phi 1 and phi 2 are 2 amplitudes, okay, for rotor 1 and rotor 2. Next step is take double differentiation of theta 1 and theta 2. Then put the values of theta 1, theta 1 double dot, theta 2 double dot in the equation of motion. Then cancel out common term sin omega t. Then write down the coefficients of phi 1 together, then phi 2 together, and write 2 equations in the form of ratio phi 1 upon phi 2. After cross multiplying, we will get the equation in the form ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay, from which we get 2 natural frequencies, omega n1 and omega n2. Then we will determine 2 mode shapes by putting the values of omega n1 and omega n2 respectively. Okay, in what equation? In the equation of ratio, that is phi 1 and phi 1 upon phi 2. Okay, and finally we draw the 2 mode shapes in the proportionate scale, in which I told you the step number 1 only, that it is a diagram number 2 and diagram number 3. Now, what do you mean by 2 rotor system? Okay, so in 2 rotor system, the best application of the 2 rotor system is the front wheel of the cars or the rear wheels of the cars, which are connected with the axle. Okay, so these 2 rotor system can vibrate in a torsional fashion. So in a torsional system where 2 rotors are mounted on the shaft, there are 2 natural frequencies of the system and 2 principal modes of vibrations. Already we have learned this in longitudinal vibrations and in combined vibrations also. The system will be having two equations of motion, which may be treated as a coupled differential equations. So two rotor systems consist of a shaft having a torsional stiffness KT and two rotors having their mass moment of inertia, that is I1 and I2. Okay. Now consider any two rotor torsional system as shown in following figure, in which I1 and I2 are the two respective moments of inertia of two rotors that is coupled by the shaft. See here, these are the two rotors. This is rotor 1, say rotor 2. Okay. Then this let at any instant the displacement of the two respective rotors be theta 1 and theta 2. See, it is shown here. Okay. In the same direction, we assume that both the rotors are moving in the same direction. If clockwise, then both will rotate in the clockwise. So here it is shown. See, this is theta 1. That is the angular displacement of rotor 1, and this is theta 2, which is the angular displacement of rotor 2. Okay, so while vibrating, now here we have to assume that at any instant rotor 1 and 2 have displacement theta 1 and theta 2. Okay. Now the twist in the shaft is, now see this shaft, as both the rotors are having unequal displacement, naturally the shaft will get twisted. By how much amount? As here we have assumed theta 2 is greater than theta 1, the twist in the shaft is theta 2 minus theta 1. Okay. For the relative displacement of the rotor shown, the shaft exert a torque KT into theta 2 minus theta 1 on rotor 1 in the direction of rotation, and in the same torque will be in the opposite direction for rotor 2. Okay. So that depends on, again, as I told you in the earlier longitudinal problem also, that first you have to show the restoring torque on that rotor which is having the greater displacement. Here I2 is having greater displacement. So first you show the restoring torque in the opposite direction of motion in for rotor 2, and opposite to that torque here we can show for rotor number 1. Okay. Now this we will study later on, because these two diagrams we have to draw after we get the mode shapes. Okay. Now there are two cases, case 1, case 2. Okay, because it is a 2D wave system, so there will be two natural frequencies, so there will be two mode shapes. So let us consider the first case, when two rotors have displacement in the same direction by same amount. Okay, let us assume here, see, this is your system. Okay, if we assume that both the rotors will have the same displacement in the same direction, that means suppose rotor 1 rotate by 5 degree clockwise and rotor 2 also rotates 5 degree clockwise, what will happen? There will be no vibrations. So omega n1 will be 0. So first natural frequency will be 0, because both the rotors, they will just move as a whole system by 5 degree and shaft doesn't get twisted. If vibrations are to be occurred, your shaft must get twisted. Okay, but it doesn't get twisted here because both the rotors have same displacement in the same direction. Okay, so this is the first mode shape. Now what is beta 1 and beta 2 here? Beta 1 and beta 2 are the amplitudes. Okay, here we can use either phi 1 and phi 2 or beta 1 and beta 2. Okay, so let us see here. If both the rotors displace in the same direction by same amount, there will not occur any vibrations of the system, as shaft will not get twisted. The whole system will have just a displacement by the said amount in that direction. So one of the natural frequency omega n1 of the system is 0. This system is said to vibrate with 0 frequency as shown in figure 1a, as I have shown you. This is known as the first principal mode of vibration of the torsional system. So once you calculate this one, now you can draw this diagram. Okay, beta 1 is equal to beta 2. Okay, so natural frequency is 0. Now consider this second case. Okay, in the second case, when two rotors have displacement in the opposite direction. Okay, that means if these are the two rotors, if I am moving this rotor by clockwise direction and this by anti-clockwise direction, what will happen? your shaft will get twisted. Or both the rotors have displacement in the same direction but by different amount. That means first rotor, say this rotor will have displacement by 5 degree and this rotor have displacement by 10 degree. It is not equal. Then also shaft will get twisted and vibrations will be occurring in the system. So case 2 is when two rotors have displacement in the opposite direction or they have displacement in the same direction by different amount. Okay, by different amount. It is not same amount. So omega n2 is equal to, now in first case we have seen that omega n1 is 0. Now in this case we will get omega n2 is equal to square root of kt upon ie, where kt is the torsional stiffness of the shaft and ie is the equivalent mass moment of inertia of two rotors. Okay, now let us see how this has come. Okay, for that purpose consider this is rotor 1. Okay, though I have given the name A and B. Okay, so this is rotor 1, this is rotor 2. Both are rotating in the same direction, that is clockwise direction, by amount theta 1 and theta 2. Okay, now in this diagram, okay, theta 1 is not equal to theta 1 because vibrations we want to occur. Okay, and here we consider theta 2 greater than theta 1. Okay, though the two rotors rotate in the same direction but by different angular displacement, shaft will get twisted through the amount theta 2 minus theta 1. Okay, so here is the free body diagram of this shaft. Okay, now here in this diagram, as this is I have taken as it is from the book. Okay, but here they have assumed theta 1 is greater than theta 2. That's why the term will be the twist in the shaft will be always greater minus smaller. That means theta 1 minus theta 2. Okay, now consider, say this is rotor 1 and this is rotor 2. This is having displacement theta 1, this is having displacement theta 2. Now you have to show you have to show the torques acting on both the rotors. There are only two torques for one rotor and two torques on this second rotor. So what are the two torques? One is the inertia torque. Okay, now here as we are going to apply Newton's second law of motion, inertia torque will be in the same direction of the rotation. So as rotation is clockwise, inertia torque is also clockwise. And what is its magnitude? I1 theta 1 double dot. Okay, now here for second rotor also as theta 2 is clockwise, what is the torque, inertia torque in the same direction, that is I2 theta 2 double dot. Understood these two directions and magnitude of inertia torques? Now you have to show the restoring torque provided by this shaft. Okay, now as I have told you in the earlier for longitudinal problems also, that first always you have to show that restoring torque for that rotor which is having greater displacement. Now here we have assumed for this diagram that theta 1 is greater. So first you show restoring torque in the opposite direction of the rotor. Now it is rotating in clockwise direction. So its restoring torque provided by the shaft for rotor 1 is in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, and for this rotor it's clockwise direction, because these two restoring torques will be always equal and opposite for these two rotor. Okay, so here it is anti-clockwise. What is the magnitude? Kt into theta 1 minus theta 2, and for this rotor it is kt into theta 1 minus theta 2 only their directions are different. Okay, now let us write down the equation of motion. So applying D'Alembert's principle. Now see here, actually this diagram, I have not referred this diagram. I have referred the other diagram and I have applied D'Alembert's principle. Okay, let us assume here, if we want to apply the D'Alembert's principle, what will happen? Only inertia torque direction will change. It has to be shown in the opposite direction. Here also anti-clockwise, here also anti-clockwise. Okay, so for this one, for this rotor, both the torques are in the same direction. Okay, and for this it is opposite. This is anti-clockwise, this is clockwise. So for first rotor, what is the equation of motion? I1 theta 1 double dot is equal to kt into bracket theta 2 minus theta 1. And for second rotor, I2 theta 2 double dot is equal to minus kt theta 2 minus theta 1. So for one shaft it is plus, one shaft it is minus. That is only the difference. Okay, whether you apply D'Alembert's principle or Newton's second law. Okay, now let us analyze this one. So further procedure remains same as we have seen in the 8 problems which we have solved for longitudinal and combined vibration. Okay, what you have to do now? You have to collect the term of theta 2 together and theta 1 together, coefficient of theta 1 and theta 2. Okay, and then everything you take on left hand side so that right hand side should be equal to 0. So I1 theta 1 double dot as it is. Now this is minus kt theta 1, it will become plus here, plus kt theta 1. Then this is plus kt theta 2, it will become minus. Okay, then similarly is the similar case is for this equation. Okay, now what's the next step? Assume the solution for principal mode shapes. Theta is equal to beta 1 sin omega t, theta 2 is equal to beta 2 sin omega t. Do you remember what is the solution we assume for longitudinal vibration? Small x1 is equal to capital X1 sin omega t, small x2 is equal to capital X2 sin omega t. So we have replaced x1 and x2 by theta 1 and beta 1. Okay. Now, what are the beta 1, beta 2? Are the amplitudes of vibrations at 2 rotor positions respectively. Okay. Now, taking double differentiation of theta 1 and theta 2, what do we get? Theta 1 double dot is equal to minus beta 1 omega square sin omega t, and theta 2 double dot is equal to minus beta 2 omega square sin omega t. Okay. Now putting the values of theta 1, theta 2, theta 1 double dot, theta 2 double dot in this equation, in both the equations. Okay. Theta 1 double dot, theta 1, theta 2. Similarly here also. So what you will get? We'll get these two equations. And now you have to cancel the common term sin omega t from both the equations. Okay. So you will get these equations. And simplifying, that means, see, this is the equation which will be having beta 1 also, beta 2 also. Then in this step, you have to collect the coefficient of beta 1 together. See, what is the coefficient of beta 1 here? Kt minus I1 I1 omega square. See, minus I1 omega square plus Kt. This is the coefficient of beta 1 and beta 2 Kt. In this diagram, in this equation, what is the coefficient of beta 2? Minus I2 omega square plus Kt. Okay. And for beta 1, there is only Kt. So now we have to write down this equation in the form of ratio of amplitudes. Beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to Kt upon minus I1 omega square plus Kt. And second equation, beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to minus I2 omega square plus Kt upon Kt. Okay. Now you have to equate these two equations because both are equal. So equating and then cross multiplying. What are you getting? See here, Kt square is equal to this bracket into this bracket. Okay. Then multiply this bracket. There will be 4 terms. Okay. Then cancel this Kt square and Kt square. Then write down this equation in this format. I1 I2 into omega raised to 4 minus I1 plus I2 Kt into omega square is equal to 0. What you can take common from this step? Omega square. So omega square into bracket I1 I2 omega square minus I1 plus I2 Kt is equal to 0. Okay. Now either omega square is equal to 0 or this is equal to 0. So by equating omega square is equal to 0, you will get first natural frequency, that is omega n1 is equal to 0. And by equating this term in the bracket, we get second natural frequency, that is equal to square root of I1 I2 into Kt upon I1 I2. Okay. So what is omega n2? Now this can be written as, see this term carefully, I1 plus I2 upon I1 I2 can be written as IE, that is equivalent inertia of 2 rotors. Okay. So IE can be written as I1 into I2 upon I1 plus I2. Now how this has come, that I will be explaining later on. Okay. So either you can write down the formula of omega for omega into like this, or you can convert it into IE. So this equivalent mass moment of inertia can be found out as follows. Okay. Now how to find how this relation has come. Okay. Now see how this relation has come. Go to this diagram. Okay. This is, say this is I1, this is I2, and this is the shaft. Okay. See, if I want to convert it into a single rotor system. Okay. So these 2 rotors should be replaced by a single rotor. Now, how these 2 rotors are connected to the shafts, whether in series or parallel? Just think for 10 seconds. These two rotors, how they are connected to the shaft? They are connected at the ends. So whether this connection is in series or in parallel, if you remember, in unit number 1, we have solved many problems of having springs in combination, either in series or in parallel. Okay, so these two rotors are connected in series. Okay, so how will you find out their equivalent mass moment of inertia? See here. As two rotors are connected in series to the shaft, their equivalent mass moment of inertia is calculated as follows: 1 upon IE is equal to 1 upon I1 plus 1 upon I2. This is the formula for series. Okay, then 1 upon IE is equal to I1 plus I2 upon I1 into I2. Therefore, IE is equal to I1 into I2 upon I1 plus I2. So this IE, either you write down here in terms of IT or you put the value of IT here. Understood? So omega N2 is equal to square root of I1 plus I2 into KT upon I1 into I2. Okay. Now, principal mode shapes. Okay, we have to find out principal mode shapes. Considering any one equation of ratio of amplitude, we got two equations, no? Beta 1 upon beta 2. So consider any one equation. Suppose we are considering this equation. Beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to KT upon minus I1 omega square plus KT. Okay. Now, to find out the first mode shape, put omega N1 value, which is equal to 0. So when we put 0 here, it becomes KT upon KT, that becomes 1. That means beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to 1. So what is its physical interpretation? The diagram of first mode shape is as shown in figure 1a. This means that if we select the amplitudes of both the rotors of same magnitude in the same direction, two rotor system will not vibrate at all. Hence, the natural frequency will be 0. The system as a whole will simply rotate by angular displacement of amount beta. Okay. So as I have shown here, see, you got the answer now. Mathematical proof that why beta 1 is equal to, we got beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to 1. This is the first mode shape wherein we are getting natural frequency 0. Okay. Now let us analyze the second mode shape. In the second mode shape, again, what procedure we have to follow? We have to consider any one ratio equation, okay, and put the value of omega N2. So this is your ratio of amplitude equation. Beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to KT upon minus I1 omega square plus KT. Put the second natural frequency, that is equal to square root of KT upon IE, okay, or better way, you put the value of IE is I1 plus I2 into KT upon I1 I2. So when you put the value of omega square here, that is I1 plus I2 into KT upon I1 into I2, what will happen? See, this is just a mathematical steps are there. This I1 will cancel out with this I1. Okay. Then there is a KT in this term also, in this term also, and the numerator also. So KT also will be cancelling out. So what is remaining? In the numerator it is 1, and in the denominator this I1 is cancelled. So minus I1 minus I2 upon I2, correct? Plus 1 because KT has been cancelled. Okay. Now you take here LCM for this one. What is the LCM? L2. So minus I1 minus I2 plus I2 upon I2. So minus I2 plus I2 is cancelling out. What is remaining? Minus I1, and this I2 you take in the numerator. So what you will get finally, beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to minus I2 upon I1. What is the meaning of this one? Okay. The mode shape, I will explain you. First, let us understood what is beta 1 and beta 2. So here beta 1 and beta 2 are in the opposite direction and unequal. Okay. And thus the shaft gets twisted with the elastic forces set up inertially to provide restoring torque. So the vibrations can take place in the rotor system, in the two rotor system. Okay. As one of the natural frequency is 0 for two rotor system. So what is the name of this system? We can say that it is a semi-definite system, and we can also say that it is not actually a 2D wave system. Okay, we can convert it into single DOF system. Since the node point is a fixed point, as there is no amplitude of vibrations. Okay, now we can consider the shaft to be of two separate shafts. We can convert two DOF system into two single DOF system. Okay, as let us go to that diagram first. Okay, that amplitude ratio, or it is also known as a second mode shape. Okay, this is the diagram. So here, see, beta 1 and beta 2. This is with respect to this diagram. Okay. Now see, beta 1 is the amplitude of vibration at rotor, at this cross section of the shaft at rotor 1. Beta 2 is the amplitude of vibration at this rotor. And as you go away from this rotor along this shaft length, amplitude will be decreasing. Again, as you go from this rotor here, amplitude will be decreasing. And there exists one point which is having zero vibration, because these two are in the opposite direction. Beta 1, if it is say clockwise, beta 2 is anti-clockwise. Okay, though the two rotors are moving in the same direction, as the shaft gets twisted, okay, shaft gets twisted, so there exists one point which is called as a node point, which is having zero vibrations. Okay, because it is and the distance of this node point from these two rotors is L1 and L2. Okay, so one more equation we can, or one more relations we have to analyze here. What relation we got? Beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to minus I2 upon I1. Means if your mass moment of inertia of the rotor is smaller, amplitude is higher. If your mass moment of inertia of rotor is higher, amplitude is lower. Okay, because we got the relation or derivation that beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to minus I2 upon I1. Okay, and why minus? Because those are in the opposite direction, beta 1 and beta 2, not in the same direction. So this is the second principal mode shape. Did you understand? So this is the relation we got. Beta 1 upon beta 2 is equal to minus I2 upon I1. That means beta 1 I1 is equal to beta 2 I2 minus beta 2 I2. Okay. Now, let us see here how to find out the distances. Now, how to find out the distance of node point from two rotors. Okay. For that purpose, we have to assume that at node point, what is node point means? Zero vibration. So you can consider it as a fixed point. See, these are two rotors. Here is a node point, which is a fixed point. So now convert two DOF system into two single rotor system. So assume this is a fixed point. So this is fixed point and this is single rotor. So assume this is one system. Then this is fixed point and this is second rotor. Assume this is other single DOF system. Okay. So like this, two DOF system can be made equivalent to two single rotor system because of this node point. Okay. Now node point is common to both the rotor. Whether it is a part of this single DOF or that single DOF, it must have the same frequency. Okay. Actually, which is zero, as it is a node point. But if you want to find out the frequency at that point, treat that point as a part of this system, treat that point as a part of that system, and then equate it because there is a common point. You will get the distance of this node point from both the rotor. Okay, now how that we will see. So this omega is equal to square root of, now see, as we have converted this system into single rotor system, you know the formula how to find out the natural frequency of single rotor system. Square root of kt upon I. See here, omega is equal to square root of kt upon I. Okay, so or you can also write down square root of gj upon il. You are familiar with this equation. You have solved so many problems in unit number 1. Okay, now only the thing is that here when you apply this formula for a single rotor system, so what you will write down? Omega n1 is equal to square root of gj upon I1 L1, and omega n2. Here I have to write down omega n2, not omega. But omega n2 is also equal to square root of gj upon I2 L2, and these two are equal. It is omega n2 only. Omega n2 is equal to this one if we consider this rotor, and omega n2 is equal to this formula when you consider that rotor number 2. So for rotor number 1, this is the formula for omega n2. For rotor number 2, this is the formula for omega n2. Okay, as the natural frequency of both the shafts have to be same, as a node point is common for both the shafts, omega n1 is equal to omega n2. Okay, so square root of Gj upon I1 L1 is equal to square root of Gj upon I2 L2. From this one, Gj will be cancelling out, square root also we have to remove. What is remaining? I1 L1 is equal to I2 L2. What is I1 and I2? Mass point of inertia of two rotors. What is L1 and L2? This is the distance of node point from both the rotors. Okay, but you also know that L1 plus L2 is equal to L, capital L, which is the length of the shaft. Okay, so solving these two equations, okay, you will get L1 is equal to I2 upon I1 plus I2 into L, and L2 is equal to I1 upon I1 plus I2 into L. Okay, so like this you can solving these two, or you can put the values here also and you can find out, but usually we convert this and we can find out L1 and L2. What is L1 and L2? These are the distances of node point from two rotors. Okay, now from above equations, location of node point can be determined. Now the very important concept in this two rotor system. See, up till now we have considered that the shaft is having the uniform diameter, say suppose D. But in practical things, it doesn't happen, no. Actual shaft may be having different steps for bearing purpose, for mounting different components. Okay, so in actual practice, a shaft may have variable diameter for different lengths, and then the rotors are attached to the shaft as shown in following figure 3. Such a shaft is replaced by theoretically equivalent shaft of a uniform diameter and approximate length as shown in above figure, such that the torsional stiffness of two systems must be equal. Such a system is known as a torsionally equivalent shaft. Now let us get understood what I have told right now. Okay, see, right now we have learned 2D wave system. We know how to find out omega n1, omega n2. We have studied two mode shape also, beta 1 upon beta 2. Okay, and now all these are applicable to the shaft having uniform diameter. All these formulae cannot apply to the shaft having different diameters. See here in this diagram. Okay, there are different length of the shaft having different diameters. So there are 4 steps we have shown. This is length L1, L2, L3, L4. So this is diameter D1, D2, D3, D4. Okay, now this is rotor 1, this is rotor 2. You cannot apply whatever you have learned till now, that is beta 1 upon beta 2 node mode shapes, or find out omega n1, omega n2. You cannot apply these to these stepped shafts. What we have to do? We have to convert this stepped shaft into uniform diameter shaft. Okay, but without changing its equation, or without changing its torsionally equivalent, torsion equivalent. Okay, so this is your actual system, and this is equivalent system, which is torsionally equivalent to this system. Now, how you can make it torsionally equivalent? By considering the stiffness. Torque will be acting same. Here, if torque is T, which is acting on actual system, here also the torque must be T. Okay, then if the shaft material is here, say the G, that is modulus of rigidity, is G for this stepped shaft, here also it should be G. Okay, so T will remain same, G will remain same. What will change? D1, D2, D3, D4, etc. Here you have to consider one equivalent shaft, equivalent of equivalent length. When we consider this shaft, which is of some different length than these 4, its total length will also change. It will not remain L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus L4, but it will be some equivalent length you have to find out, because this is the equivalent system to the actual system. Now, how it happens or how to find out this equivalent system to this actual system? Okay, when we consider the total angle of twist for this system, that is suppose theta e, and the total angular twist of this actual system, when these two are equal, then we can say that actual system is nothing but equivalent to equivalent system. Okay, so for this purpose, let us consider. So since the two shafts are equivalent, now we have assumed that these two are equivalent. Then the torsional stiffness and hence the angle of twist should also be the same. You know the basic formula of torque, T upon J is equal to G theta upon L. Okay, T is same, G is same. G cannot be same because G diameters are different. Okay, but your torsional stiffness KT must be same. And when you said KT is same, KT is equal to T upon theta. T is already same. So when theta is same, KT will be automatically same. That is a torsional stiffness. Okay. So let us assume that D1, D2, D3 are the diameters of length L1, L2, L3 respectively. Okay. I have considered only 3 here for calculation purpose. Here, though here in this diagram, it is shown 4 steps. For calculations purpose, I have considered only 3. Okay, D1, D2, D3 for the length L1, L2, L3 respectively. Then angle of twist for this much length. Say this will twist by theta 1 only amount only. This will by theta 2. This will by theta 3. Okay, I'm not considering this one. That is not there. Suppose so. Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 are the angle of twist for length L1, L2, and L3 respectively. And theta is the total angle of twist. Okay, of actual system only. We are talking about actual system. So what is the total angle of twist for this actual system? Theta is equal to theta 1 plus theta 2 plus theta 3. And one more parameter is there, that is J1, J2 and J3. What is J1 or J2 or J3? It is the polar moment of inertia of the shafts of diameters D1, D2 and D3 respectively. Because their diameters are different, its polar moment of inertia is also different for that particular cross section. Okay. Now we know that torsional stiffness is given by KTE, that is equivalent stiffness T upon theta, that is equal to GJ upon L. Okay. So now what is this equivalence? Where T is the torque acting on the system, which is same for both the system, actual and equivalent. JE, there is a polar moment of inertia of equivalent shaft. Now you consider this system equivalent. Okay. So JE is polar moment of inertia of equivalent shaft. LE, length of this equivalent shaft. See here it is. Okay, it is shown L here, but we call it LE. Okay, that is equivalent length. Then KTE, torsional stiffness of equivalent shaft, and theta is angle of twist for equivalent shaft. Okay. Now we know this formula. This theta is equal to, you take on this side, theta you take on this side, and this you take on left hand side. So theta is equal to TL upon GJ. That is T into LE upon G into JE. What is E? E stands for equivalent. Okay. Similarly, you can write down for actual system what should be the theta 1, what should be theta 2, what should be theta 3. So for example, theta 1 is TL1 upon GJ1. Theta 2 is TL2 upon GJ2. Theta 3 is TL3 upon GJ3. Okay, so T and G will remain same for all the diameters of the shafts, even for equivalent shaft also, but only there is a change in length and diameter. Okay. Now putting this equation B and C, that is theta is equal to TLE upon GJE. This is for equivalent shaft, and putting the value of theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 into this equation. Okay. So what we will get? T into LE upon J into JE is equal to TL1 upon GJ1 plus TL2 upon GJ2 plus TL3 upon GJ3. Okay. From each term cancel out common term, that is T and G. So what is remaining? LE upon JE is equal to L1 upon J1 plus L2 upon J2 plus L3 upon J3. Okay. Now put the value of polar moment of inertia. You know that is pi by 32 dE fourth. For J1, pi by 32 D1 fourth. For J2, pi by 32 D fourth. Similarly for J3. Okay. What you can cancel now? Pi by 32 from each term. So what is remaining? LE upon DE raised to 4. see this d raised to 4 is equal to L1 upon d1 raised to 4 plus L2 upon d2 raised to 4 plus L3 upon d3 raised to 4. Like this, so how many steps are there? Those many terms will be there. Okay, so this is your final equation. How to find out LE? See, there are two parameters which you have to find out. First is LE, that is equivalent length. So LE is equal to d upon d1 raised to 4. So this DE you have taken here now. So LE is equal to d upon d1 raised to 4, then d upon d2 raised to 4 into L2 plus d upon d3 raised to 4 into L3. So from this formula, because you know everything, you know d1, you know d2, you know d3, you know L1, you know L2, you know L3. The question is what DE you will take, so that you can find out LE. Okay, so generally what we do, we take either D1 or D2 or D3 equivalent to DE. You take anything, don't worry. As D changes, L changes. It is equivalent length. So you take any DE, either D1 or D2 or D3 or any value also. Usually we take DE is equal to D1. Okay, in that case, this formula reduces to, see, when we put the value of DE is equal to D1, what we will get? LE is equal to L1, because this D1 will be cancelling out. So L1 plus D1 plus D2 raised to 4 into L2 plus D1 upon D3 raised to 4 into L3. Okay, of course, this is the special formula when DE is equal to D1. So don't remember this formula. You remember this formula, original formula. Okay, so this is the system which is known as a torsionally equivalent system. You will need this formula to solve the problem of torsionally equivalent shaft, or to determine two natural frequencies of the shaft, two rotor system, and two mode shapes of the two rotor system. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to this lecture. And now from the next lecture, we are going to solve say 3-4 problems we will solve on two rotor system. If you understand this procedure correctly, you will be able to solve any type of problem on two rotor system. Okay, thank you very much.